If you are looking for a mobile wallet to hold and access your crypto, you need to go to argent.xyz and download their smart contract wallet app right onto your Android or iOS device. Argent is the most secure way to hold money on your device while still being able to access DeFi services that we all know and love on Ethereum. Through Argent, you have one-tap access to the beloved DeFi apps like Compound, Uniswap, Aave, and you can even invest directly into some yield-generating assets right from your Argent wallet. Crucial to maintaining security over your assets is Argent's Guardian service, which allows you to use a friend to make sure that you can always restore access to your funds in case you were to ever lose your phone or for your device to break. You can also use a local hardware wallet to ensure that you can always restore access to your funds yourself. One of Argent's newest features is their ability to route trades through 10 decentralized exchanges, including Uniswap and Kyber, to make sure that you are always getting the best trade on your assets. Similarly, pushing the fold on what we can do in Ethereum and DeFi, Argent has replicated some of the legacy financial services that you would expect from your bank, but put it directly into the hands of the user, such as send limits and whitelisted accounts, ensuring that if anyone were to be able to access your funds in your Argent wallet, they could only send up to a certain amount and only be able to send them to approved addresses, which is creating one of the most safe environments to hold your assets in, which is why people have put millions and millions of dollars into the Argent wallet that they use on their device. In order to see the Argent wallet in action, go to argent.link/bankless and download the Argent wallet on iOS or Android today. We're also brought to you by MONOLITH. MONOLITH is your cool new DeFi account, your DeFi savings account, your DeFi checking account. Except the cool thing about the MONOLITH DeFi account is that it gets software updates, right? You actually get to increase the usefulness of this over time. So here are some of the features. MONOLITH is a smart contract wallet with a lot of the features that you would expect if you've come to know DeFi and what it is. You can add money to it. You can put that money to work in Compound and accessing yield. But you can also swap through Uniswap. What was cool with Monolith is that they will send you a very sexy Monolith Visa card that connects to your Monolith smart contract wallet on Ethereum. So it's a really awesome tool to live a bankless life with a savings account that gets software updates. So this is something that you're never going to find out in the real world, but you can still do real world things with, real money, like buy your groceries. So that's just fantastic. Coming soon to Monolith, actually already here to Monolith, is now you can buy DAI and get it sent to your wallet directly, right? So it's also being an on-ramp. So you don't have to go through your centralized exchange like Coinbase or Gemini or wherever. You can just go straight from your bank account right into your Monolith checking account smart contract wallet. So check them out at monolith.xyz.
All right, Bankless Nation, we are back with Colin Myers and David, of course, and he's going to help us answer a very important question. Of course, we talk about on Bankless, what is Bankless about? It's about freedom, financial freedom, freedom from banks. And David has the question, probably the same question that many of you have, which is how much ETH is actually required in staking to earn a decent passive income off of this stuff, an income source that is denominated in self-sovereign, bankless money, ETH native source. David, I think that's the reason you started to get into this space. Is that correct? That's always been the dream?
Absolutely. And this is something that really gets me excited about Ethereum 2.0 is because we're about to do this all over again. Like I got into Ethereum because I started mining on my gaming computer, finding out like I can make $5 a day on my GPU. And then I scaled that up into like 24 GPUs, like spread in different corners of my dad's house. But then like in the bear market came, and then, ASICs kind of dominated the Ethereum landscape. And so I see this migration to proof of stake as a resurgence of some of the original core values that brought people into Ethereum in the first place. The ability to mine Ether and get Ether dividends in your home is really powerful. And like we are going back to that world with proof of stake. That's always been the point of proof of stake, is getting money paid to you at home in a self-sovereign way. And so I want to know, like, how much Ether do I need to stake so I can like have a comfortable retirement? Like that's
all right. Well, let's find that out.
It's been my question for 3 years.
You know what? Colin Myers designed, we've got him on right now. He designed the perfect calculator for you. Then we're going to go through it. And I don't think David is the only one, by the way. I've talked to a lot of ETH holders.
Definitely not.
Through the bear market. And part of the reason they kept the faith and kept holding is like, why? I'm waiting for proof of stake. I'm waiting for this to be a semi-passive income source for me in the future. I believe in Ethereum. I believe that this is possible. So David is not the only one. And if you are watching, you are listening, I bet you have some interest in this too. So I am pulling up the ETH2 Calculator designed by Colin, Mara, some other folks, and the team at Consensus and partially Bison Trails. This will be linked in the show notes. There's also a guide that we will link. It's already linked. There's a guide we will link in the show notes too that we designed that will help you through it. But it has some variables we're going to go through and help answer David's question today. So we've got first this whole category under the ETH2 calculator. Let's start here. The current cost to become an ETH2 validator is $14,293. That is the cost of essentially 32 ETH, owning 32 ETH. Is that correct, Colin?
Yeah, that's your raw cost, if you will. That's your asset acquisition cost.
So that's your capital outlay. That's almost the equivalent, David, to your GPUs, basically. You've got to buy the GPUs, you got to buy the ASICs. That's what the ASICs are in this new model. We have to get a certain amount of validators and stake on board to launch the chain. I'm assuming we get that. I still have full faith, especially after our ETH war effort next week, David. We're going to hit those numbers. Not going to be a problem. Let's talk about some of the variables here. So one variable, Colin, is the ETH price, of course, right? So this calculator auto feeds into the ETH price. Another variable that you could adjust up or down is the total amount of ETH at stake. So this model right now in the default assumes about 1 million. But is it correct, Colin, if I adjust that amount up to say 2 million or 3 million or 5 million, that indicates more ETH of the total staked, that the rewards will go down for David? Is that correct?
Yes, correct. So it's we're going to start off earning rewards at 524,288. That is the Genesis threshold, and then as more validators get added, you will see between phase 0 and phase 1.5, when there is no liquidity, you'll see a unidirectional decreasing reward structure, where in earlier epochs you'll receive the highest, and then as more stake gets added to the network, you will receive less.
We'll keep it at 1 million for now. That will probably go up in other phases over time. It's hard to know. ETH circulating supply, that feels fairly certain. I think the assumption of all of the other validators on 95% of the time feels pretty safe. But let's get to the validator specific. So David, do you already have an internet router, my friend? Can I say yes to this question?
I have an internet router. Yes, that's how we are doing this stream.
Okay, good to know. Good to know we're not using your cell connection. All right, so infrastructure. What kind of node are you going to run? So you have kind of two options here, right? So you could either run your own hardware, or you could run in the cloud.
No,
what are you doing?
Hardware, staking at home.
All right, so you want actual physical hardware. Inside of your residence where you live. And what are we doing for infrastructure choices? I'll give you two here. That's what the calculator says. You go the bare minimum requirements, or you do recommended. All right. So here is, I think, let's see, the minimum requirements are something like this: 4 gigs RAM, 20 gigs storage, SSD.
I definitely got that. Yeah.
Okay. So
for people who are looking at this, like, I'm going to be staking on a 2018 MacBook Pro, and that is more than enough. I think I have an i7 in it, an Intel i7 chip. Maybe that's a little bit higher than average, but an i5 is going to be just fine.
Okay. So you've got the recommended requirements, you're above minimum requirements. And then Colin, what's interesting is David just answered the question, like, he has the internet, he has a router, he has broadband. That's all you need, broadband. You don't need some super like fast fiber connection, like your Comcast connection if you're in the US works. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, cool. All right. So David, how many validators are you going to run? Maybe we'll say like base case here first, and then we'll work towards your dream retirement passive income.
Yeah, I'm gonna only put in 32. I'm gonna put one validator through in phase 0, and then I'll get the rest of my ether over. All 332,000 of them over. Later.
Okay, so this is you at first. You're being conservative, so you're not ready to start retiring on this passive income. But we'll set this to one validator. So that means you're putting 32 ETH in. And again, 32 ETH is about 14K in capital. So not insignificant, guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, we put out a Meet the Nation video about Rocket Pool. If you have less than 32 ETH, there are other ways to stake.
Yep.
And there will be other ways to stake. But David's running his own validator. Uptime, 95% it's set at.
I'm better than that. I 98%. Give me 98%.
I'll just give you a flavor. Here's an like a calculator, uptime calculator. So 95% means you could be down up to 18 days a year, right? That's 95%. So what did you say? 99%?
98. Give me 98.
98.
I'm a good boy.
All right. That still gives you, even as a good boy, like that gives you the ability to be down 7 days a year.
Right. So when I move apartments, I can close my laptop, carry it from one apartment to the another, set up Comcast, and that's my like 5 to 7 day break. Then that's okay.
Exactly. Exactly. That's reasonable. As long as Comcast isn't out for like 2 weeks or like some sort of disaster hit. So I'm going to set you at 98%. Cost of computer hardware, I think that's already been put in. Useful life, everything else is put in. So I think, Colin, am I looking at the right place? This is David's annual profit with these variables in place. So that's an annual profit, if you can't see this, of $1,777 at a net validator issuance. So he is making annual returns of 12.43% on his 32 ETH. So on his 14K denominated in US dollars, he's making a 12.43% return. This is after the cost of hardware and internet. Am I reading that correctly, Colin?
Yes, that's correct. And for specificity purposes, that means that that epoch that he participates in, with the network state at 1 million ETH staked, on an annualized basis, he would earn 12.43%.
Very cool.
So that's an annualized number, and it's based on the snapshot of the state of the network at 1 million ETH staked, which
So
over
David,
the course of the year will change. You know, it'll only increase. So his actual annualized reward will be less than what the metric is that you see here today, as it's annualized at a snapshot point in time.
Got it. So as the stake increases, that could go down a little bit, and that would be annualized up to that amount. So David, I guess one question. So if you were to park your funds in, say, the equivalent sovereign bond market, like what would you do on a T-bill, right? Like, do you know T-bill rates off the top of your head?
T-bill rates, especially right now, I'm pretty sure are like 1 to 3%, maybe more, maybe. That sounds about right to me.
Right. Yeah.
And so, specifically 1 to 3% on the US dollar, which is not a hard money.
Which is not a hard money. It's between 1 to 3% and dropping. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw zero. Some people talk about with negative the central bank digital rates. Currency, negative. And then in the background, the Fed is inflating your money, inflating the money supply, right? So this
Bad
is
news.
I mean, yeah, this is a totally different paradigm here. It's a different source, but there are risks here, of course. So let's talk about other places you could put your ETH. Is there anywhere in DeFi that you can get this kind of return at the moment that you're aware of?
In YEARN, you can submit your Ether into a YETH vault, and then it will draw DAI from MakerDAO and use that DAI to get a yield. And that is earning something like 4 to 6%, but that also has some risks involved, because if your Ether drops, you actually might end up having to sell your Ether because you are taking out leverage to get that done. And so, like, while that is 4 to 6%, that is not a risk-free 4 to 6%. That is a risk-on 4 to 6%, which is a very important difference.
And it also has other like DeFi risk. You're trusting DAI, you're trusting YEARN, you're trusting Maker smart contracts. Whereas this, and guys, when we say risk-free rate, somebody chewed me out on Twitter one time, somebody in DeFi, because I said like ETH stake will be risk-free rate. And he's like, it's not risk-free. There's tons of risk. I'm like, yeah, I know there's risk, but it's protocol risk. It's the base layer risk. That's what you're incurring here, but you're not taking all of the other layers on top, right? And
importantly, in Ethereum staking, there is no counterparty risk, right? You are not loaning out your money. There's no one receiving it. The thing that is receiving your Ether is Ethereum, which we can all trust. Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
Okay. All right. So you're putting that in, but like you're getting $1,777, which is a good start, right? For some passive income for you. but that's probably not going to be enough to retire on, right?
Yeah, on retirement, that's a pretty slim retirement.
All right, so let's talk about some of your dreams, David. So we've got a few variables that we can adjust here. All right, just for fun.
If you want to live a bankless life, you need to get a hardware wallet. There is no alternative for storing your crypto in a self-sovereign fashion. That's why I have 4 ledgers that I use to manage my different crypto assets using the Ledger Live account as well. Ledger Live is like your home base for managing your Ethereum, DeFi, and crypto accounts. It does a really good job of aggregating all of your different Ethereum wallets if you are the type of person that uses more than one. But you can also add other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Cosmos or whatever your preferred blockchain is. And then it will display an aggregate portfolio of all your accounts at the main page. One thing that Ledger is doing a really good job of is enabling all the money verbs that me and Ryan talk about with the Bankless Skill Cube enabled in the Ledger Live app. So right now in the Ledger Live app, you can buy, sell, lend, swap, and stake your crypto assets, which is doing a really good job of fulfilling all of the money verbs in the Bankless Skill Cube. Something that's new to Ledger Live is Ledger Swap, where you can swap assets one for another directly inside the Ledger Live application, ensuring trustlessness in your financial activity on Ethereum and on Bitcoin. If you want to learn more about what you can do with a ledger, go to the blog post, The Power of Ledger Live on the Ledger website, where they share some of the more advanced things that you can do with your ledger that you might not have known about. There's a link in the show notes that will take you to the Ledger shop where you can get your preferred Ledger hardware wallets. I personally like the Ledger Nano X, but I also have both. They're both great options. When you own a ledger, you own your own assets in the way that they have been designed to be held by the user and the user alone. So go get your ledger today to make sure that you are as self-sovereign as possible. The Bankless State of the Nations are brought to you by YEARN. YEARN is DeFi's first self-building community-run project, which I just get really, really excited about. YEARN is a system that seeks out yield in DeFi, and it does that in a number of different ways. A very aggressive way is with the vaults, where you can deposit your preferred asset of choice, and different DeFi experts will come in and generate a strategy for what to do with your deposited token, right? And so it'll go find ways to get yield in that deposited token in DeFi. For those who want to just earn yield on their stablecoins, the Earn system is for you, where you can deposit your preferred stablecoin and YEARN will go and figure out which money market on DeFi in DeFi is producing the best interest rate, whether it's DYDX, it's Compound, or Aave. It looks around DeFi to see where the yield is coming from, and it directs stablecoins automatically so you don't have to. Check them out at yearn.finance to get started, and also check out the stats page to see what other people are doing.
We've got a few variables that we can adjust here. All right, just for fun. One variable, of course, is you could put more ETH into this thing. You could go buy more ETH and go risk it in this risk-free rate of ETH2 protocol risking. So you have that option, my friend. Another option that we might see, and you know, despite what people might think, David and I do not control the price of ETH. It ebbs and flows on its own. But if the price of ETH goes up, what's that going to do to your return?
Well, in US dollar value, it's going to pump that number up. Absolutely.
In US dollar value. Yeah. Interesting. But
so,
not
your
in ETH denominated.
Your Ether denominated returns will stay the same independent of the dollar price. But if the dollar value of Ether goes up, then the dollar value of your Ether dividends also goes up.
Okay. So let's say that, what numbers do you want to adjust then, David? Let's let you play the scenario out. So we could adjust ETH price. We could adjust how much ETH you want to put in. What's kind of reasonable for your retirement passive income dreams?
Yeah, so Chris Berniski, who is a person I trust, tweeted out recently about his projected returns based off of Bitcoin, Ether, and DeFi mid to small caps. And he estimated that Ether at the end of this cycle is going to do a 10x, where he thinks Bitcoin is going to do a 5x, Ether is going to do a 10x, and then DeFi mid caps are going to do a 20 to 50x. So let's go with what Chris said. And so that would be put Ether at roughly $4,500 at a stable end of cycle price.
Wow, $4,500. And when he was saying cycle, any idea what the timeline was he was talking about?
I don't think he gave a timeline. No.
Okay. So he's saying probably in the next 3 to 5 years, 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, 2 to 5. Yeah.
So we are 10xing the ETH price right now, which is not crazy for a bull market cycle. Okay. And then are we keeping you're just running one validator with 32 ETH?
Yeah, let's keep one validator for now, and then we'll see what number that gives, and then we will go and change that number after I see what the number that it gives.
All right, Colin's magic calculator did all of the calculations for us, and
but I think we have to tweak one more number, because I think if we are assuming that Ether price is going to be $4,500, I think there's probably going to be more Ether being staked. I feel like that's a likely outcome. So let's go from 1 million to let's go to 4 million. 4 million ETH staked.
4 million ETH staked. We'll keep the other variables the same. Of course, ETH circulating supply is going to be up a little bit too, but maybe we ignore that for now.
Yeah, let's ignore that. That's an unknown quantity.
All right. Anything else you want to adjust?
No, I think that's right.
All right. So your annual profit right now, you're doing 10K a year. So you went from, you just basically 10x your annual profit, right?
No,
now,
it was at $1,700, and now we're at $10,000.
Exactly.
And
so less than 10x because the issuance, your net issuance annualized went down from what, 12 to 7?
Yep, right. And so we previously, when there was only 1 million Ether staked, we were receiving a 12% issuance rate, a 12% interest rate on our ETH. And since we bumped that 1 million total ETH staked up to 4 million, it went down to 7.4%.
Okay. Is that going to be enough to retire on, my friend? 10K a year?
We're getting closer, but still, like 10K. Like, I have a pretty bougie diet. I eat a lot of steak. So, all right. So I think we're gonna have to add some more validators, Ryan.
All right. So what do you want to do?
Well, okay. So if I'm making $10,000 a year on one 32 ETH node validator, my retirement goals are $50,000 a year. So I think we should 5x 32. So 5 times 32, which that number is. Quick math. 160.
5 times 32 is 160 ETH staked, and the calculator does it for you, my friend.
Fantastic.
And then that gets you to your annualized profit of 54K per year, a comfortable retirement, and that would mean that would mean that you are. And this is, by the way, like some people talk about, like financially independent, retire early. This is around the benchmark that they use for that sort of thing in personal finance world, right? Like 50K annualized. Some people feel comfortable enough to retire. What that means is basically you've still got a lot of capital here if you're doing that, because that 160K is all your capital. That's like your net like capital, but it's throwing off 54K a year in profit for you. And that's paying for all your steak and your bougie lifestyle.
Yep. No, that's right. That's right. Yeah. 55, it's not, it's $55,000 a year as a salary is, a modest salary. Like, some people would really appreciate $55,000 a year on retirement. Like, that's not it's relatively slim, but I guess your consumption in retirement goes down, but like you're still going to have to, like, do some things, right? You don't get to just like, buy a jet and start flying all over the world.
You know what it does do though, is it gives you the ability to go pursue hobbies, like even income making hobbies, like, the stuff that we do often, I'm just like, it's fun. It's like stuff I'd be doing if I didn't have to work. Right. So you get to do that and you don't have to be a slave to the wage. Right.
Yep.
So that's what that income can do for you.
Yeah, that is $55,000 in, again, issuance of dividends to you coming from a protocol, not a counterparty. There is no dependencies on me receiving my $55,000 a year retirement, right? And so it's actually, as a security, as a safety net, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is hopefully will emerge as kind of the risk-free, like the T-bills essentially of crypto. So this is less risky than, say, depositing your ETH into the yam farms way back when we used to do that kind of thing over the summer. Very cool. All right. Did that answer your question?
I need 160 ETH in order to retire, assuming that Ether 10x is in price. So I got some work to do with my stack.
Should we do some Anthony Sassano predictions and just jack this up to 10K?
Let's see what happens at 10K. Let's do 10K 32 ETH deposit rather than 160. Let's go back to one validator.
Okay. All right. So one validator at 10K ETH. This is the Anthony Sassano prediction. You're doing 24K a year, from 1,700 a year to 24K a year.
If
And
Anthony Cesano is correct, which I trust the guy, he's pretty correct quite frequently, and so that means one validator node with 32 ETH gets you $24,000 a year. That is insane.
Not too shabby, my friend. And then 5, if we increase that to 5, you're doing, so this is again 160 ETH staked. On a single validator, you can do this. It's 122K a year in relatively passive income.
Okay, but if that's going to be the case, we have to bump up the total staked to 12,000 or 12 million ETH. We got to do that because that's just too good return.
All right, you don't want to live in fantasy world. I don't know if it'll ever get to 12K ETH. What do you think? Like, yeah, 6 years, excuse me, 12 million. What do you think, Colin? Do you think it's going that high? Because at a certain point, like, it kind of trails off and it's diminishing returns as far as the returns go, right?
Depending on the price of ETH, net, like nominal yields do turn negative. If ETH doesn't like moon really hard, once you get out past that 10 million mark. I personally think that through phase 0 to phase 1, we see about 1.5 million to 2 million. I think phase 1.5, phase 1 to 1.5, more people begin to step in. And then by the time we fold ETH1 into ETH2, I think we're around that 5 million mark, which is like phase 1.5. And then it's kind of, it's ongoing state once it gets into phase 2. And then with what we know today, it's pretty mature on its fungibility properties, but things may change. I see 10 million as being the economic barrier that it may not make sense for people to want to participate given the skills required to do so on your own and the rewards that you're offered. But 10 million ETH stakes plenty for security of the network. But I personally see 10 million probably being that ceiling because there are negative yields that could be experienced based on where the price of ETH's at.
All right, 10 million. You're doing 77K a year, David. And then,
Plenty.
by the way, that's plenty. That's a pretty decent retirement if some of our ETH Bull friends are right. And then, by the way, is there a way to see how much Colin, like at 10K price ETH at some of these variables, 10 million staked, how much economic security does Ethereum have? Is there a chart on that in this calculator?
Yeah, there's no security measures
and
benchmarks set inside of this, just kind of relative issuances. If you scroll to the right though a little bit, one interesting thing is this chart with the 3 descending, which is validator issuance, network at home, and using a VPS. So this is the scale. It's the top right chart. So if you go up a little bit and then scroll a little over to the right, yeah, this one right here. So if you take a look at this is Genesis to 10 million ETH staked, with the price of ETH set at around 400. So it is relevant. So assuming you're seeing prices there, this is your gross from 19.8% to 4.5%. And then when you begin to layer in cost, there's 2 different cost factors as we've gone through. As you can see, once you begin to use your VPS and you get out here and you're only staking 1 validator into the 5 million range, your yields actually turn negative. Whereas if you're validating at home, you're pretty close to break even at 10 million. So I think it'll come down to the cost of the validator setup as to where that break even point is. But I think this is probably relevant for users to take a look at as it explains the reward structure and how it's related to the amount of ETH staked.
And that's interesting because it should kind of collapse to sort of something close to the marginal cost, right? And like risk of staking, similar to the way proof of work does, where it's like energy plus ASICs, like marginal cost.
Yeah, doing a break-even analysis is probably what most larger people will do when deciding whether or not this is a good use for their ETH, or whether or not they could earn more rewards someplace else.
Very cool. All right. Well, we've got David on his retirement plan. Yep. Colin, this has been fantastic. Guys, Bankless Nation, we've got guides, we've got calculators. You can see if staking is right for you and if it makes sense, and how to get on the passive income train if it comes to pass. Colin, just thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for putting all of this stuff together, right? Devs are super hard at work. Also, like people like you to help educate the community on staking and the potential of the internet bond. It's just like instrumental. So like, thank you for all the work that you're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is my ETH2 effort is my my 15% of my time commitment at Consensus that is meant to give back in a non-profitable manner. So it's been a very exciting 2 years. It's been a great experience for me to go through the whole thing. It's me giving back to the community that's given a lot to me over the past 3 years. So I appreciate you guys having me on today to walk through the calculator and also to help get more people educated about ETH2 staking, what internet bonds would look like, and also to leverage the community that you guys have to kind of drum up a good conversation. I'm really hoping this kind of gets people's gears grinding, thinking about becoming a validator, thinking about the different abstractions that could be built on top of staked Ether, as there's a lot of different things that could be built on top. So hope that the paper serves as a fundamental viewpoint, and can't wait to get back on with you guys once Genesis goes and we actually start seeing some data as to how these things are valued and if it's relevant to some of the projections that we did. So just to close it out, for those of you who want to check out the internet bond paper that Mara and myself put together, there's been a couple of good Twitter posts by the Bankless team, and we also collabed on an article as well. So feel free to check those out and head over to the PDF. And last shameless plug for me would be for everyone to go check out Activate. Activate's a project at Consensus that I spend most of my time on. We collaborated with the Ethereum Foundation to build the ETH2 Launchpad. So it's kind of the big thing that we're trying to promote people to come into Activate, learn more about phase 0. We have an FAQ, we have an interface built on the calculator there, and we also have a secure link, most importantly, to the ETH2 Launchpad, so you can ensure that you're not getting phished by coming through Activate. As we helped the EF build the platform. So we're excited about phase 0. I'm stoked that Genesis is around the corner, and doing things like this will help it become more successful. So I appreciate what you guys are doing, as it's extremely helpful.
Likewise, Colin. One thing I've been hammering on lately is I've been watching the macro world really learn how to place Bitcoin in the world around it, and there's nothing more bullish for Bitcoin than being understood. And when it comes to Ether and staking Ethereum and proof of stake and advertising like this internet bond market, that's what I see you doing with this calculator for Ethereum, right? Like really putting it into digestible and knowledgeable mental models for people to understand what is actually going on here. And so that's just one thing that really just makes me really excited about, staking my own Ethers. Like people are going to figure out what this thing actually is, and it's going to be on the shoulders of your effort and Mara's effort and everyone else who's trying to push this conversation forward. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Talk to you soon.
See you
Night,
later.
everybody.
Bye.